Hi, this is Made on Mill. My name is Emily. In this video, I'll be sharing with you how I make a dress for my daughter. So I found this pattern at a thrift store. Now I have leftover fabric here from when I made the Willa dress. So I'm going to start by cutting out all the pieces and then we can get sewing. Don't mind our old table. We found it for $75 on Facebook Marketplace and we just love the detail, but the top definitely needs to be redone. It's on our list, but for now it works. All right, first thing I need to do is determine the size that I'm doing. So I think I'm going to do size 2 so I can get at least 2 seasons wear out of this for my daughter. So on the pattern pieces, you can see all the different sizes are listed here. So instead of cutting out the pattern pieces to the size that I need, I'm going to trace it onto wax paper, and that way I can keep using the pattern over and over for different sizes. So I have the wax paper laid out here and I've transferred the information. So the pattern number, the view, what it is. This is a skirt front and back, and then I need to cut 2 on the fold. So now I just need to simply trace this onto my pattern piece, and then I can go ahead and cut the wax paper up and we'll be good to go. Okay, so there I have it traced. This is what it looks like. Now I can go ahead and cut these out once I have traced all of them. I was able to get my pattern pieces pretty flat. You just run your iron over it really quickly, being careful that it's paper, so you don't want to use too much heat. Now, this is the layout here for the dress at the bottom here. I have fabric scraps, so I may not follow that exact layout. I want to use up my scraps efficiently, so that's how I'm going to lay things out. Even where you are using scraps, it's really important that you still are following the grain line on your fabric and aligning your fabric pieces that way. You don't want anything cut on the bias if it's not meant to be, and then having it stretch. So I want to talk about pattern matching. Now, you can match if you want, you don't need to. I think it gives a really professional look. So this is the dress here. Now the only place I'm going to worry about matching the fabric is between the 2 front bodice pieces here. Okay, if we look at the front bodice here, we have a few things going on that we need to consider for the pattern matching. So this is the cut line here. Then we have 2 fold lines. So this is my trace piece. It looks like, as per the instructions, we fold it along the first piece here, then we fold it again like that. Now this dotted line here, which I have traced onto my pattern piece, is the center line. So if I take my back bodice piece and kind of lay it on, yeah, that's lining up at the center there. So those are the same size. Now, if I look at the instructions, it says to lap the bodice, right bodice over the left, matching the centers, base raw edges together. So it looks like when I overlap so we'll say this is the right side, and if this I had cut out for the left side, we are going to match up those lines there, like so. And so, therefore, what we have showing here and on the right side of this would be where the pattern needs to match. So if I line up the front center pieces here, that line, okay, I think I got that lined up here. And we'll pull that down. Okay, that means if I draw a line here, I'm just gonna roughly do it. Okay, that means this will be, this fabric up to here will show, right? Because then the other piece is going to overlap here, which means I need to pattern match this edge here with the other one that I cut. Okay, before I cut, I have two pieces of fabric here that are, the patterns are kind of lined up. Here I just roughly overlap them where the patterns are matching. You can see that right here. All right, so that means anywhere where it's overlapping, I can make sure this line is landing. Okay, I ended up cutting the left bodice piece out because I wanted to make sure that this butterfly was to remain intact and full. I'm going to mark on the fabric piece that I cut that center line. Okay, and then I'm going to mark that overlap line that we discussed. Okay, let's get this laid out here. The most important part to pattern line is closest to that line there. Okay. What I'm going to do is line this up here, and then on the fabric that I'm going to cut, I will mark, there we go, perfect. And then I'm going to just trace the outer edge of that there slightly so that I know the limits that I'm working in. Okay, so this is a line that I need to pattern match, meaning this line here, where the patterns will be touching, is where I need to lie on that line. So let's take that off. So I need to line that up perfectly like that. Okay. Oh, pull it down a bit because we want the edges to line up, right? Like that and like that. I think we need to move it in a bit. Okay, let's lay that down and just see here. Okay, we line those up. The pattern is still matching. Yes, that is our matching line and matching line. Okay, so I can go ahead and cut this piece out. Let's hope that everything lines up there, but I'm pretty confident it will, and if not, that's okay. It's a fairly busy pattern, so I'm all right if it's not perfectly lined up. So the first thing that we'll need to do is run stay stitching along the neckline of both the front and back bodice pieces. So that would be along here. Because this is cut on not the exact bias, but it is on, not on the grain of the fabric, there is more likelihood that it can become stretched and skewed. So stay stitching will hold the fabric in place and make sure that it doesn't get stretched. Okay, now we will do that fold on the front bodice. So if you remember when we were trying to pattern match, I said there was these two fold lines. So we're going to go ahead and do those two fold lines, ironing each fold, and then I will come back here and stitch them down once they're pressed. I have a little bit of bad news. I folded those front center pieces down and stitched the folds in place there. Now when I go to overlap them, and how they should be sitting is like this, and unfortunately I messed up my pattern matching there. But I think if I overlap it this way, it's a little bit less obvious here. Like the leaf looks like it's matched. But yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Now I'm going to attach the back bodice to the front pieces along the shoulder and the side seams. Change of plans here. I decided, yeah, so I did sew together those side and shoulder seams. Now, this is the left side of the front bodice here. And as I just discussed, the right side wasn't pattern matching. So now that this is folded, I'm going to go back to my fabric, take this piece knowing exactly where the overlap is going to be, and I'm going to cut out a piece that is going to match because this is really going to bother me. Okay, I have good news. I recut that piece out and I was able to pattern match. Okay, now I need to attach this shoulder and side seam, and then we need to figure out how we're finishing the seams here. I imagine I will just trim them down and then run a zigzag stitch along there. Okay, so this is the inside of the bodice here, the back, and I've attached the neckband. Now I put a piece of interfacing on that so it's a little bit stiffer, and then I've gone ahead and stitched it to the back bodice piece and then press the seam up, making notches so that it sits nice around the curve. So this is what the back is looking like now, or the outside I should say. And I took the seam line and went ahead and pressed the rest of the neckband there. So now what I'm going to do, because we had to cut 2 neckband pieces, is I will pin them together with the right sides together like this here. And then I will stitch starting down here and going up and around like that. Then I will flip it inside out so this piece is sitting on the inside, and then I will run a top stitching line here, which will catch that seam allowance, but also the bottom of that. Okay, so as I'm getting down to the, this is the front center bodice piece here, I can kind of feel where that goes up and this seam is here. So I want to run my stitching line from the needle here over to where it meets the bodice there, so that when I flip this inside out, this will be one consistent seam. Okay, so I have my needle lined up with where that sits. So I'm going to keep my needle down and just pivot my work and run that stitching line so that it just comes right to that bodice piece there. And I'll just feel that with my fingers. Okay, I don't want to catch the front bodice piece, so if you're a little bit away, that's a bit better than catching it. So I will go back and notch out the corners, but for now I just want to show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'll push this out so it's a bit cleaner, but you can see now that stitching line matches up with that front bodice piece there. Now looking behind here, I will go ahead and press this in by 1/2 inch. Now this seam was 5/8 of an inch here, and the reason I will fold this piece in by only 1/2 inch, so it's slightly larger, is so that when it's folded it covers that stitching line like that. And then when I go and top stitch here and I stitch between the neckband and the bodice pieces, I can ensure that I'm catching the neckband on the reverse side. I just did that stitching in the ditch along the neckband and the bodice piece there. So if I flip to the back, I've caught all the raw edges here So that's good to go. I'm looking at the instructions here and it's saying to baste the raw edges together of the right and left bodice pieces once they're overlapped. And I think the reason is we're going to add a skirt to this piece. Now this front piece here will be done up with buttons, but the skirt will be attached directly to it, so this bottom piece will be fixed. So I think by just basting that together will help keep that in place. Then we will be doing the skirt. So simply you're gonna do the side seams and then finish the raw edges, of course, and then gather the top and then add the ruffle to the bottom. So I'm probably going to just get the skirt prepared and attach the ruffle on the bottom. Then I will go ahead and attach the skirt as a whole piece to the bodice. There's that side seam of the skirt. Now I will trim the seam allowance, run a zigzag stitch along there. Now we will work on the ruffle. So I have attached the two pieces of the ruffle, the side seam here. I will also fold the bottom over and then I will hem that on my sewing machine before I attach it to the skirt, just to make it a little bit easier to work with. This is the bottom hem here. I did a double folded hem. Now for the top of the ruffle here, so since this is going to sit directly on top of the skirt piece, I decided to fold this down here. Again, a double fold, but just folding it over by about 1/4 inch to start, and then folding it over, I don't know, that might be an inch. What I'm going to do now is run 2 gathering stitches along the top here. So 2 other notes before we start. When you run your gathering stitches, you don't want to be catching this folded seam allowance here, because that is going to make it be going through 3 layers of fabric and it's going to be hard to gather it. So make sure you stay upwards of that. And I like to start and stop my gathering lines at side seams because I find it hard to gather through that. So I'll have 2 sets of gathering lines that I need to pull. So what I was saying before is these will just get placed right on top like that, and you'll stitch down so that you can see a visible top of the ruffle on the skirt bottom. So I have my 2 gathering lines running here like that, and I have started to pull them on this side. Now if we look for our side seams here and here, and if we were to line them up with the skirt, we know that's how wide our ruffle needs to be. Then you will go ahead and spread out the ruffles so they're evenly spaced. Now before I pin this to my skirt bottom, I am going to run a zigzag stitch along the bottom of the skirt. So I'm just going to fold this in about, 1/4 inch like that, because then I will line up this edge here with that. And then I'll run my stitching line here so that I'm catching both the raw edge that's folded under and I'm catching the raw edge that's folded under the ruffle piece. Okay, so this is how the ruffle is looking. I've taken out the basting stitches and then I caught the folded hem of the skirt in that stitching line there. So I have gone ahead and attached the skirt to the bodice here. I just did a gathering stitch and then stitched it on and did a top stitch so that the seam allowance sits upright. And I'll show you what it looks like on the inside here. So that's how it's looking. So now I need to work on the sleeves. Okay, now we have a couple of things going on for the sleeve. So first things first, this is the outer edge of the sleeve. This is the top that will be attached to the bodice. So from here to here, I need to run gathering stitches. So I run 2 lines of those, and so that way we can pull the fabric and ease it into the armhole. Then before I attach it to the garment, I'm going to close up the side seams here, and then I will fold this under by 1/4 of an inch, and then fold it over again by 5/8 of an inch. I'll press that around and then stitch that down, but I'll leave an opening because we will be feeding an elastic through that armhole. Look how cute these little sleeves are. Okay, now I need to finish this one, but run those gathering stitches along the top here and then attach it to the garment. So to get the sleeve in, you have the sleeve with right side facing out and the dress is inside out. So when you put this inside, the right sides are facing. So I like to just get that inside, and then I'll line up the underarm seam in both the dress and the sleeve there. Then I pin that in place. So now we are going to pull on just one thread and tighten up the sleeve here, and then we'll ease it in to fit. So it's sewn together there. I'm going to run a zigzag stitch along this seam now and attach the other sleeve. All right, it's the moment of truth here, so we can turn this right side out and see how those sleeves are looking. I'm sure that they're looking great. Awesome. Look how cute they are. Okay, now the only thing that is left to do is put buttonholes on here, 3, and then put my buttons on and the dress will be done. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this video helpful or you enjoyed watching it, I would appreciate it if you could give it a like, subscribe, or share the video with someone who you think would like it as well. I will catch you in my next one.